I wasn't supposed to open it. But my daughter was disappearing. Sophie stopped saying "Mama" when she was 3. By 4, she couldn't hold a crayon without her fingers curling like a claw. I went to her father. I went to his parents, a dynasty of surgeons. They patted my hand. They told me it was developmental. They told me I was overreacting. They told me, the nurse, to stop pretending I understood medicine. Then I found the genetic screening they'd buried 6 years before we ever met. Tucked behind a firewall, flagged by the family's legal counsel. 1 page. A single gene. And the moment I read it, every dinner party, every condescending smile, every time they called me just a nurse, it all made terrible, perfect sense. That gene wasn't a diagnosis. It was a confession. My name is Claire. 14 years as an RN. I've run codes, held dying hands, and caught what doctors in White Towers miss. But nothing prepared me for the battle inside my own home. Drop a comment with where you're watching from, and subscribe. The stories that shape us are the ones we're finally brave enough to tell. I met Adam at a hospital gala. Cardiothoracic surgeon. He moved through a room like he was already reading its pulse. His father had a surgical wing named after him. His mother chaired the medical foundation. His sister was a pediatric oncologist. Medical royalty. First dinner at their home, Eleanor glanced at my badge and said, "A nurse." How lovely. The way she said lovely was a door closing. I married him anyway. I told myself the slights were small. Eleanor handing me her coffee cup to warm up. William drawing a diagram of the cardiac cycle to explain what Adam did, a decade into my career. Adam squeezing my knee under the table. I told myself that was support. It wasn't. It was a silent request to keep the peace. I was the help who had married in. I learned to swallow it because I loved him. Because I wanted to belong. Sophie was perfect. She said light and moon and more. Then, just after 3, the words unspooled. She'd stare at a cup she'd named a week before, mouth open and empty. Her hand trembled. Our pediatrician said wait and see. Adam said I was anxious. Eleanor laughed, brittle and small, and said, not every child develops at the same pace. You'd know that if you'd gone to medical school. 3 specialists. Every referral a fight. Every time, one of their colleagues assured me I was overreacting. Every appointment I managed, Eleanor knew before I left the parking lot. Then Sophie seized at daycare. Grand mal. 4 minutes. Lips turning blue. I watched the monitors in the ER and something in me snapped clean in half. I stopped asking permission. I stopped asking for anything. I work in that hospital. I know the systems, which ones talk to each other. Every grant had their genetic panels processed in our network. Decades of data. Sophie's MRI, EEG, labs, all inconclusive alone. But the pattern was familiar. A rare inherited disorder attacking the basal ganglia. If Sophie had it, the gene came from her father. I pulled Adam's records. Clean. Then William's. My screen lit up with a file sealed in 2018, the year before I met Adam. Restricted. Flagged by risk management at the family attorney's request. I know how override codes work. I know which doctors tape passwords under keyboards. 1 page. William Grant carried a pathogenic mutation. Juvenile onset Huntington's. The same disease that killed his sister, the aunt no one mentioned, at 42. Her death certificate sat in a subfolder, attached like an afterthought. They knew. Before Adam married me. Before Sophie was a heartbeat. Before we were a family. They knew the bomb was buried in their bloodline. And they said nothing. I sat in that room for an hour. Fluorescent hum. I thought about every dinner I'd served coffee while my daughter's future sat on a server 3 floors down. Adam's hand on my knee, always saying don't. Sophie's small body arched off the floor while they told me I was imagining things. They weren't protecting Sophie. They were protecting the Grant name. A genetic flaw didn't fit the brand. Better to gamble with my daughter's brain than admit the royal bloodline was tainted. Some of you have felt this. The moment you realize someone you love chose reputation over your child's life. Tell me in the comments, have you ever fought someone you loved just to get them to believe the truth? I need that answer. I didn't confront Adam that night. I kissed Sophie's forehead and lay beside a man I now understood was a stranger. I listened to him breathe and felt nothing. Next morning, I called a geneticist outside the Grant network. 48 hours later, confirmation. Sophie had juvenile Huntington's. Treatable if caught early. Irreversible damage if left alone. They'd left it alone for 18 months. Eleanor was hosting dinner that Saturday. All four at the table. I had 4 days. I printed everything. The sealed screening. The aunt's death certificate. The correspondence between their lawyers and risk management. The geneticist's referral, failure to diagnose, stamped in red. Copies for everyone. This wasn't a private conversation. I was a nurse. I knew how to present a case. Saturday. Crystal glasses. The heavy silence of a family performing perfection. I waded through the soup. Let them talk about galas and research wings. I waited until the salad plates were down. Then I placed the stack of documents in the center of the table, beside the butter dish. I ran some tests. Since no one else would. Eleanor glanced at the top page. The color left her lips. Claire, this is entirely inappropriate. You're right. It's inappropriate that I had to break hospital protocol to discover my daughter has a fatal genetic disease, because her grandfather carries the gene and her father's family decided it was bad for business. The word genetic hit the table like a dropped glass. William's face went slack. Adam stared at his plate. His sister opened her mouth and closed it. Eleanor recovered. Those panels offer probability, not certainty. You're misinterpreting the data. A little knowledge is dangerous. Smooth. The same voice she'd used to dismiss a resident. But her knuckles were white around her wine glass. I slid the confirmatory report across the polished wood. It's certain. She's been symptomatic for 18 months. Every single one of you told me it was in my head. I turned to Adam. He wouldn't look at me. You said I was anxious. You said nurses think they're doctors. You told me to trust the specialists your mother handpicked. Silence. The grandfather clock ticked 10 times. I'm just a nurse, Adam. But I'm the one who saved your daughter's life while you were protecting a bloodline that's already broken. He looked up. Wet eyes. Thin, cowardly mouth. No words. He never had them. Eleanor pivoted. Family privacy. These things are delicate. We plan to tell you. When? When she couldn't walk? When she couldn't swallow? What was the timeline, Eleanor? She had no answer. William spoke, voice a low rasp. We thought we had more time. I turned to him. The great Dr. Grant, clutching a scotch like a life raft. You had 6 years before I ever met your son. You had nothing but time. You chose silence. He looked away. They all did. The sister never came back from the bathroom. Adam whispered, I didn't know how to tell you. You didn't know how to tell me your father carries a degenerative disease that you passed to our daughter? What else don't you know how to tell me, Adam? He stared. A hollow man in a white coat. Nothing underneath. I took my copies. I picked up my daughter. I walked out. That was 3 months ago. I haven't spoken to any of them since. Sophie started treatment last month. Medication, physical therapy, speech therapy 4 times a week. We caught it early enough to slow progression. She won't get back everything she lost. But she won't lose more. Yesterday, she said, "Mama," for the first time in over a year. I cried in the parking lot for 20 minutes. The board opened an investigation. Eleanor resigned. The Grant wing is being renamed. Adam lives in a rented apartment. His signature no longer appears on surgical charts. I walk past that wing every morning. I don't smile. I don't need to. They called me just a nurse. But nurses are the ones who notice when a tremor isn't normal. Nurses check the records no one else opens. Nurses stay, long after the doctors have gone home to their reputations. Subscribe to Lineage of Lies. Share this with someone who needs to hear that being underestimated is a superpower. And tell me in the comments, have you ever fought someone you love just to get them to believe the truth? Your story might be the next one we tell.